What happens when a veteran undercover owner tests his own team, but one employee's words leave him speechless? In the heart of downtown Springfield, there was a man named Harold Finch. He wasn't your typical business owner. At 52 years old, Harold had spent 2 decades in the military before starting his own retail store called Finch's Supplies. The shop specialized in tools, gadgets, and everyday essentials for people who worked with their hands: carpenters, mechanics, landscapers, and even hobbyists. It was more than just a business to Harold. It was his legacy. Harold believed that running a good business meant treating employees like family. Over the years, he built a team of loyal men who shared his vision. But lately, something felt off. Sales were slipping, customers complained about slow service, and Harold couldn't put his finger on why. That's when he decided to go undercover. The morning began early. Harold stood outside Finch's Supplies, dressed in faded jeans and a plain gray hoodie. No one would recognize him now, not as the boss, anyway. He adjusted his baseball cap low over his forehead and walked inside, hoping to see how things really ran without his presence looming overhead. Inside, the store buzzed with activity. There were 4 men working today: Marcus, the head manager; Leo, the stockroom supervisor; Victor, the cashier; and Calvin, the newest hire. Harold took a deep breath, letting the familiar scent of wood polish and metal fill his lungs. This place was home. He approached the front counter where Victor stood, organizing receipts. "Hey," Harold said casually, leaning against the counter. "I need some help finding a drill bit." Victor glanced up briefly, then returned to sorting papers. "Aisle 3, he replied curtly, not bothering to look again. Harold frowned but didn't say anything. Instead, he wandered toward aisle 3, glancing around at the shelves. Things seemed organized enough, but there was an odd emptiness in the air, a lack of energy or enthusiasm. He picked up a box of drill bits and studied it closely, pretending to be unsure which one to choose. "Do you know if these fit older models?" Harold asked aloud, loud enough for someone nearby to hear. This time, it was Marcus who noticed him. "You'll want the universal set," Marcus suggested, walking over. His tone was polite but distant. "They're compatible with most brands." "Thanks," Harold muttered, nodding slowly. He added the item to his basket and moved on to browse other sections. As he did, snippets of conversation between employees caught his ear. "They don't care about us," Calvin whispered to Leo near the back corner. "All they care about is numbers." Leo shrugged. "That's just how bosses are, I guess." Harold froze mid-step. Those words hit him harder than he expected. "They don't care about us." Was that what his team thought? After all the effort he'd put into creating a supportive environment, this stung deeply. He forced himself to keep moving, trying to shake off the weight of those words. By lunchtime, Harold decided to test the team further. He grabbed a small toolbox from the display area and headed to the checkout line. Victor rang him up without making eye contact, speaking only when necessary. It was efficient but impersonal, nothing like the warm interactions Harold remembered fostering years ago. As Harold paid, another customer stepped forward, visibly frustrated. "Why does it always take so long here?" the man snapped. "Every time I come in, it feels like no one wants to help." Victor sighed heavily. "Look, buddy, we're doing our best, okay? Not everyone's happy all the time." The tension in the room thickened. Harold watched silently, wondering if anyone else would step in to defuse the situation. To his surprise, Calvin spoke up. "Sir, I understand you're upset," Calvin said calmly, stepping closer to the counter. "Let me grab what you need right away. And if there's anything else we can do to make your day better, let me know." The customer softened instantly. "Well, thanks. I appreciate that." Harold felt a lump form in his throat. Here was Calvin, the newest member of the team, showing more empathy and initiative than anyone else. Why hadn't he noticed this sooner? Later that afternoon, Harold found himself alone with Marcus in the break room. They chatted casually about sports and weather until Harold finally asked, "How do you think things are going around here?" Marcus hesitated, stirring his coffee slowly. "To be honest, mister, sorry, It's fine," Harold interrupted gently. "You can call me Harold. What's on your mind?" Marcus exhaled sharply. Things aren't the same anymore. Everyone used to feel like part of something bigger. Now it feels like we're just punching clocks. Harold leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. Why do you think that is? I don't know, Marcus admitted. Maybe because we never see you anymore. You're always busy with meetings or paperwork. We miss having you out here with us. Those words struck Harold hard. He realized he'd been so focused on growing the business that he'd forgotten the importance of being present. Without realizing it, he drifted away from the very thing that made Finch's supplies special, its people. The first twist came later that evening, during closing hours. Harold stayed behind after locking the door, gathering the team for a meeting. He started by thanking them for their hard work, then confessed everything he'd learned that day. You guys deserve better, Harold said firmly, his voice trembling slightly. I've let you down by not being here enough. From now on, I promise to show up, not just as your boss, but as someone who truly cares about each of you. There was silence for a moment, followed by a hesitant nod from Marcus. We appreciate that, Harold.
Really?
But just as hope began to spark, Victor spoke up. It doesn't matter what you say. Nothing will change unless you actually follow through. Harold blinked, taken aback. He wanted to argue, to defend himself, but instead he nodded. Fair point. I won't ask you to trust me blindly. Let me prove it. The second twist happened weeks later, when Harold introduced a new program called Employee Spotlight. Each month, one team member would be recognized for outstanding performance, receiving a bonus and public acknowledgement. When the first winner was announced, everyone assumed it would be Marcus or Leo. Instead, Harold chose Calvin. Calvin has shown incredible dedication since joining us, Harold explained during the staff meeting. He goes above and beyond every single day, reminding us what it means to serve others with kindness. Tears welled up in Calvin's eyes as he accepted the award. Thank you, Harold. I didn't expect this. Honestly, I thought I wouldn't last long here because I'm still learning. But knowing you believe in me makes all the difference. That moment changed everything. Slowly but surely, the atmosphere at Finch's Supplies began to shift. Employees started supporting each other more, taking pride in their work and sharing ideas to improve the store. Customers noticed the difference too, leaving positive reviews online and recommending the shop to friends. Months passed, and Harold reflected on everything he'd learned. Running a successful business wasn't just about profits, it was about relationships, trust, and leading by example. Sometimes, stepping back and seeing things from another perspective could reveal truths you never expected. And sometimes, the simplest acts of kindness could inspire greatness.